What's up, everyone? My name is Wes, and you're listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. Today's episode, we welcome singer-songwriter Kate Malanaphy back to the show and inaugurate the Ear Coffee 5 Timers Club. Since 2018, they've put out some of our favorite local music between their solo releases and many collaborations. Their debut album, Rock, is as much a musical reinvention as it is a subtle evolution. We talk about how they created the musical world of the record, what it's like revisiting old songs and growing alongside them, the freedom of collaboration, and more. Without further ado, here's my interview with Kate Malanaphy on the Ear Coffee Podcast. How are you doing on this Saturday?
It is a Saturday morning. I am present. I'm excited to be here, albeit a little sleepy, but it is what it is.
We love Saturday morning sleepiness, especially when it's not quite foggy or dreary, but the weather influences how the podcast goes. Yep. Just like the moon causes us to behave certain ways, or so I'm told. Cool. Just kind of, since you are such a veteran of the pod, you're gonna get like the little 5 timers jacket that SNL does. If we ever make money, we'll put all of it right into big patches. It's like we blew our Patreon budget on silly patches that we only gave to Kate. Abe one day, probably.
Probably not too long from now.
Yeah, but to kind of reintroduce, since I'm sure folks, if not from the show, hope probably more from the fact that you are a out and about musician who plays a lot. And what did you start your day with music-wise? Have you listened to anything yet today?
I actually have not listened to anything yet today. I'm trying to remember. I definitely woke up with a song stuck in my head, but I'm having trouble. Oh yeah, so I teach kids music at School of Rock right now, and I'm been choosing my songs that we're going to do for the next season, and we're going to do Fidelity by Regina Spektor. So I've been singing that one this morning. Yeah.
That's a good way to start the day with some Regina.
Nice and light, yeah.
Cool. Just diving right in. So how do you approach balancing, because since we've last talked, or at least talked about your solo music, Keep for Cheap has obviously been very, very busy, and Fend has taken off. So how have you been able to balance pouring your creativity into so many different projects, or at least into several different projects? Because they all go in their own respective directions. You are playing different roles, just satisfying different areas of that creativity, it sounds like.
For sure.
But how do you approach that? How do you balance that?
Yeah, I think what you just said, like where it's all kind of almost a different role for every group, like that's been pretty cool, because it's like, kind of cut and dry. Like, I don't know, for this project, the solo project, I feel like I haven't been putting too much like writing time in, just because it's been album stuff going on. So like that's been kind of a good way to start like Fend up with this stuff going on with the solo project, so I can kind of like ease into getting this stuff busy again when it's time to like write, if that makes sense. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't work a full 40-hour week. That's been helpful for like being able to do all the music stuff,
practice, and all the things.
Absolutely. And it's just a lot of like, I don't know. I have like pretty much different days for different groups. Like Keep for Cheap will do Tuesdays usually, and my solo project we practice on like Sundays a lot of the time, and Fen kind of just like fills in. And Fen doesn't really practice like super regularly either. We usually like do a couple practices before a show, or like before we want to record stuff. So like, and I feel like it's kind of the same for those other members too, because they all have other stuff going on. So it's like, we're all kind of like with
Fen,
putting time in where we can, and like, I don't know, it's been really fun to have that project, like just filling in the gaps and stuff like that. And kind of like, I mean, I know when we talked, when Fend was sort of on the show with the little mini interview, talked about how you would approach the songwriting for that. And has that, before we dive more into obviously your solo music, that's what we're here to talk about. Has that still kind of been more of Josie's project, since I know they've done some solo stuff, or has that evolved, that collaboration with the four of you, especially when it comes to kind of like the generating of the songs versus I'm going to show up, figure out a bass part, do some harmonies, and just fulfill that role, which is obviously very essential. For sure. I feel like it's definitely still Josie's songs that we're playing, but recently we like did this one song called Mama. It's a new one. And we kind of all like work together to figure out like the ending for that. So it's been kind of a more like collaborative effort in terms of arranging the songs recently. It's definitely started to ramp up a little bit in terms of like the input that other members are giving and stuff like that, I think, which is very cool. And I would never want to change anything that Josie did, especially if they didn't want to do it. But that
but
was
not
like,
a knock against them.
no, absolutely not.
Very
absolutely
wonderful.
not. But it's also very fun to like have that, beginning with that group. The collaboration is starting up.
Post-second EP recording, everything's starting to
everyone's like finding the spot, like finding out what they want to do with the group and stuff. So it's cool. Yeah.
Fantastic. Before we get too much into rock, we'd be remiss, if we didn't talk about the senior project EP that you.
Oh yeah.
It was kind of the some of the seeds for the album. The 4 songs you worked on and recorded for that back in 2021 were early versions of songs that ended up on the album, albeit in new reinvented forms. Talk a little bit just about kind of diving into the recording aspect and like the production, as well as kind of setting the stage for these songs, letting them take an initial form, seeing how that feels.
For sure.
And
I'm terms of that old EP, how that went down?
And how recording that. We don't need to go too in depth if you really want to hear all of Kate's thoughts on that. You can go on the blog that is totally dead, but is still you can still view
running.
It, and it is still readable.
So for that project, during that summer of 2021, I was doing an internship at this studio in Arden Hills, St. Paul area. And that was really cool. The guy, Brad Matala, he has worked with some bigger local artists and stuff like that. And I wasn't really on a production track or recording track or anything like that in my music education at Hamlin. I was doing a music major, so I had to get an internship for it. So that's where I ended up. But it was a very cool experience because it did teach me how to mic stuff. I can do it if I need to. And that's what I was doing for that whole EP. I was miking the grand piano they had. I was doing the drum kit myself, stuff like that. So that was a really good learning experience in terms of the engineering stuff. But then when we got into the actual production of it, it was just me in that space. For hours at a time, I would go hit my 1E and I'd go get McDonald's and I would just jam out. And it was really cool, actually. I feel it was super formative in that it was the first time I'd ever really sat down by myself to put something together, recording wise. And I was able to do everything I wanted, And so it kind of just led me to the things that I feel I want on my music in the future too. In terms of those things, it's kind of almost the maximalist type of thing that you were talking about with Tomorrow, and a lot more synth stuff almost than I would have done probably if I was recording in a studio, because I had time to mess around with my synth, stuff like that. And I'm trying to remember what else might have come of that, but really it was just the biggest thing was just being by myself and being able to take those chances, make those decisions without worrying about taking up someone else's time or their influences, stuff like that. So that was really cool.
Segueing into the versions of the songs that are on Rock, since that was that recording process for that EP, not only just because it was a senior project, that's kind of forced on you a little bit. This is supposed to be your project. Fine. Going from that very solitudinal focus to how collaborative the album actually ended up being, whether it's all the co-production with Henry Breen, playing with Josie and Al, who play in the live band, working with Abe, just bringing all these other folks in the fold that you've worked with in the past are all favorites of ours. How did that kind of come about where you wanted to, and even comparing it to something like Silk or your earlier work where that was still collaborative, there wasn't just you, but it's still, the music sounds much more based in, it's this is voice and piano. This is very much kind of creating a world around that versus let's bring a lot of people into the fold, let's flesh this out, go into that maximalism. Was that a thing that just kind of ended up happening, especially as you've been playing live?
Pretty much exactly like that. I mean, I started playing with Josie and Al, I think it was January of last year. And we started practicing maybe a couple months before that, as I was recording the album. So it just kind of ended up being like, I do want drums and guitar on this. And like, I'm just going to bring in the people that I play with already. And it went like amazing. And I mean, Josie had already done some parts for like that old EP as well.
Yeah.
And so did Alex, but they were very like quick in and out kind of vibe when we were doing that. And then I like had all the space to just mess with it where I wanted to. But with this record, it was very much like they were in the studio all day. Like we were all talking about stuff. We also had like, you know, Abe's magic touch on stuff too. So I don't know. It came together pretty organically, I feel like. And in terms of like how I chose to record with Abe, I just like tweeted. I was like, who can record music? And Abe was like me. And I was like, fucking bet. Like, let's go.
Yeah. All it takes is tweet the word record and Abe's stuff just in your mentions.
Yeah. It's like,
thank God.
Abe has like spidey senses for those tweets. But yeah, it was definitely very organic. And I don't know. It was another thing where it was like very much, what's the word? I don't know, just kind of like a landmark thing to bring those people in, start doing that kind of thing too. So yeah, I'm very excited about it.
Yeah. How did the actual like sound of the record start to come together first in your head as you were writing the songs, as you were growing with the songs, and as you brought in all your friends to play on and add their touch to the songs? Because it has, like we've said already 3 times, it's very maximalist. There's a lot of things that you won't even necessarily catch until like the second or third listen, or if you have like, you're really paying attention in your headphones, where there are all of the little kind of Easter eggs that are very deliberately planted in there that it would be missing something if it wasn't in there, even if you don't notice it right away. If that kind of makes sense. But how did you first start kind of wanting to pursue that very ambitious, that soundscape? I don't know. Not to sound too much like I smoked pitchfork for breakfast, but like
no, for sure. I feel like so part of it definitely came from, you know, that solo experience and that studio internship and stuff, and just like putting all the little things on there that I wanted to, and being like, oh, this is layering up. Like I love how different things pop out at different moments. Like I love that kind of thing. And then I feel like recording the Keep for Cheap album with Khan and everybody in the band, I feel like that was some good insight into like ways you can make weird, like different sounds and stuff like that. So that was cool to explore, like just miking stuff a little different, or like using the things in the room around you to like make different sounds, which you can hear a lot of on the record, because we were like
spur of the moment.
We were like in Abe's garage, just like grabbing things. Like this sounds cool if you hit it against this, and so like you'll hear a lot of that stuff. Like there's a trash can in there, like a metal trash can.
Do we want to leave that as a little secret for people to try to listen for?
Figure that out. It's not too. I think it's a little obvious where it is.
Listen for the trash can.
Now that you know that it's a trash can.
The hashtag rock challenge. Yeah. Find the trash can.
No, literally, I should do like a scavenger hunt of all these fucking sounds. But yeah. Again, I feel like it was just an amalgamation of like all these different experiences, and just like knowing that I love to have those little things in there. Like I'm not a minimalist by any means. So like I'm leaving all the little things. If something sounds cool, even if it's like a little redundant, like I want to leave it in. And then just bringing more people into the mix, like more and more of that stuff would happen, you know? So it's like, I don't know, just like, the way things fall together. I just like to like accept it like that and not like cut too much out or like mess around with it too much, even if there's a lot going on. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
I don't know. I think it was just like a comment you had on one of the single releases where you were talking about that approach, that world building almost, where you were trying. This feels so silly, like quote someone to themselves. Like,
no, dude.
So who said this? It was you. With the album, you're trying to build spaces to explore and frolic around and hide in. And I think some songs are more frolic, and some songs are definitely more like you're hiding, especially the songs that have really loud and just kind of cacophonous endings, which is something that I really, the first time like listening through, you don't expect the songs to kind of ramp up in that way, but then when they do, you're swept up in it.
Cool.
How did you kind of, was that more of like a retroactive? You're like, oh, this is how I would describe what we have built, or was that more of kind of like the guiding mindset as you were dropping things in, seeing how they land, doing all the layering, making all the big noises and all the little noises, and
I feel
sewing
like
them together?
It's I definitely, after the fact, like it's clearer to see like those exact vibes, but in the moment I think it is also like I'm trying to go for something. I don't always know exactly what I'm like doing with a particular song, but like I know like what I want in the moment, and like It's
you
that's
know
a tough
what you
question.
want, but you don't know like
how it will,
like what, like if you were to try to like visualize it, it's like what would it actually look like? And until you see it, it's hard to kind of
for
see,
sure,
see the forest for the trees or
absolutely
whatever George Washington said. I don't think that was him.
That fucker said. Yeah, but that's a hard question just because it's like it is so like I definitely had like these ideas for particular songs. Like I'll Never, I feel like is one that has a really distinct sound, and that's one that I like had a demo for beforehand and like had specific ideas for. But then we have like a song like Arm's Length is one that like I completely did like kind of impromptu in the studio.
Okay.
So like that one is very, you can kind of hear it's just like super impulsive and like very kind of crashes down on you a little bit. And like that's definitely the vibe I wanted for that one. So it's like it kind of varies from song to song. Some of them like I had plans for, and some like kind of built themselves. And then like listening back, it's very easy now to be like, yes, okay, like this is the vibe of this one.
This is the one that had a blueprint, or at least some orthographic sketches or whatever the engineers say. And this is the one that we were just kind of throwing things into a blender and ended up making a smoothie that we forgot to write down the ingredients. So it's like, well, I don't know what's all in here, but it tastes pretty good.
Hell yeah. I love that.
In general, how did you stay engaged with these songs for they had such a long gestation period? Because I mean, some of them have been out at least in like demo capacity, whether on the Taste EP or even separately, and they've been worked on
for a long time.
They've been in your head for a long time. How have you kind of stayed with them as they've grown into these
for sure
kind of full, like from like the seed to the garden, if you will?
I feel like
not saying that just because there's a song called Garden, though there is.
I feel like a lot of it has been like those 4 that I did for the EP, like worked on those really hard for a while, and then like I did not listen to them forever, you know? And like I kind of like had a lull in playing shows for a while there, especially because, you know, COVID happened, and like just didn't get back on that very routinely for a while. But then when I did, it was with the band joining me.
Yeah.
So that was a really good like just refresher for like performing the songs, you know, like it made it so much more fun to do that. Especially because, you know, I've been playing them for a while and stuff. So that's been really cool. I've got to say, like, the band has probably been one of the biggest factors in me staying excited about the songs, which is cool. And also just like having recorded them in a new format alongside others, like that was rejuvenating to hear them in like a new context, kind of with new ideas and stuff. And like you said, like listening through the songs, like there are things that I'll forget that I did. So like when I go back to them, I'm like, oh yeah, that was kind of cool. Like, yeah,
I forgot about
like
that
other
lyric,
people.
Yeah,
exactly.
That synth part.
Yeah, or I'll notice a little drum thing that Alex did, or guitar, you know, like stuff like that. And it's really cool.
Yeah, it's cool that I love when like there's like that weird overlap in like the listener and the artist, because it's like you're still listening back, you're still like things just kind of peeking through the clouds a little bit. Like, oh, I didn't. That's in there. What?
Yeah.
Just making that exact. Were most of these songs like originally written, like just whether it's just on piano or the guitar parts and lyrics? Are they mostly older? Or are there any that are a little bit more recent that kind of grew up with the band and going into? I guess. Sub question: when did you actually record the album? Was this just last year? Or,
2022. No, okay, so I started in the winter of 2021, I believe. I started in like November of 2021. Abe and I had our first couple sessions. And then after that, like that's when I really got like the band together. That's when Josie and Alex started playing with me. And then like in like February of 22, we all went to the studio and like kind of finished up the recordings and stuff. And then over the springtime, I kind of like in the summer, I guess, as well, me and Henry were like getting together, like going over the mixes, talking about what we would want to do with that stuff. And then I think masters got done in like last fall. Okay. So it hasn't been too long since it's been completed, but it definitely like was a little bit of a slow process getting through all of it. Yeah. And that's just partially because I'm bad at organizing things and like sticking to schedules, but it's also my project, so it's okay.
Logistics are hell, but you can lean back on it. Like, well, this is for me.
Yeah, exactly. No one else is really waiting on it, so it's like, But what was your question again? Can you remind me?
Were most of the songs originally written a longer time ago, or were there any that kind of were
for sure
leading into those first sessions with Abe, or even once the band started playing live, started rehearsing, that the songs, like you showed up in like January of 2022 saying like, hey, let's try this one to Josie and Alex. I think it might make the album. Or is it mostly stuff you'd been able to sit with for at least a little bit of time before?
Sure. A lot of them,
if not years.
Yeah, a lot of them were very old. Like Back to You's the oldest one. I wrote that one in my freshman year of college.
Oh wow.
And then like When You're Near, Keep It Down are also pretty old. I think a little bit. I'll Never is also like a little bit older, like medium, maybe 2 or 3 years. But then we have like Stephen and the Mouse and Garden are probably like my most recent ones on the album. I think Arm's Length too is more recent. And those ones like we didn't really have together with the band before we went into the studio. So it was like kind of like putting them together in real time. I think Alex and I had maybe practiced them like a couple times beforehand. But yeah, most of them are pretty old. And I feel like it's kind of clear to see that in terms of just like the lyrical content. Oh, also like Chalk is a newer one.
Okay.
And I feel like in my more recent songs, I start to focus less on just like my emotions, you know, because I feel like a lot of my older songs, like I'm just processing like relationship stuff or like personal just like issues, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like a couple later
blah,
songs.
blah, blah, but like, I understand the duality of that.
But like, I feel like Stephen and the Mouse, that one to me, like it's kind of like a fun little story song, but it's also kind of just like about like our relationship to nature now, and like
it's
shit like
very
that.
I think the note I wrote down is I called it the existential cat song.
Absolutely.
Like the mouse is dying. Like, I'll put that on
what
me.
Am I
it's like
doing
it's my
to,
fault.
like,
The cat ate the mouse.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
What?
Really though?
Is nature our
just
responsibility?
because I'm observing this situation doesn't mean I have to.
And
do
I'm
something.
powerless to change it.
Yeah, exactly.
I wasn't.
So that's
everyone's
like,
got to unpack that by listening to the song.
It's just it's just like just bigger things, you know, a little bit in those more recent songs, and it feels cool to be doing that a little bit now, more so. But yeah. I don't think.
Oh, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I don't think I have like an exact like for any of them except for like
we don't need like the middle school like book where it's like, well, here's when the Battle of the Bulge happened, and here's when
little timeline.
Cool. Were you aware of that? Like, when you're looking at like the songs you had been working on, were playing live, or looking to put on the album, was that something you were kind of conscious of? Like, a lot of these are older. Do I want to revisit them, or had you been writing other stuff or was it just kind of like the few songs that kind of evolved into those new directions, were showing a different person? You know, like you're a different songwriter from the one you were a few years ago. Was that something you were more conscious of, or was like, here are the songs that I feel prepared to work on, that I want to spend the time with and put out there?
Yeah.
Those two kind of ways of looking at the songs can, I'm sure, coexist in your head.
Yeah.
In a lot of different ways. But.
I'd say they absolutely do. Like, I was very conscious of, you know, even just the difference of like the piano songs and the guitar songs, like mixing in the guitar songs. Now, like, I was thinking a while, like, should I do a separate EP, something like that? But I just feel like it's been so long since I released music. I have so much that I just want to get out there. So it's like, it was definitely just like, these are the songs I feel done with and like ready to let go and move on to new ones and stuff. And so those are the ones I wanted to share. So and it's just cool that to me, like, rock is kind of like my college album, you know, because it's like all the songs I wrote like within my college years, and I'm sure I'll look back on it and be like, wow, that was like a crazy fucking 4 years and blah blah blah, all that stuff. So it's cool. I don't know, I like that there's new and old, but I definitely at first was like but I think it fits. I think it fits.
I think like the wide ranging nature of the album, both especially musically, especially with the different sounds, whether it is songs that like don't start just with piano, which seems like kind of like a novel thing. And I'm sure you hear this more than I could imagine, but that's like such a cool, just like shift in evolution. It's like, let's see what this song is going to sound like. Going away from, even if it's not like the stereotype of like a piano ballad where kind of like when You're Near is the one was like, that feels like, oh, this is like the big kind of emotional piano ballad. Got to have at least one.
For sure.
But you almost wouldn't pick up on that right away, because there is just so much variety going on. I think that lends itself to the album versus being a detriment. And it sounds like it. I hope you feel the same way.
Agree. Thank you. Cool.
What was, or describe a moment of pride on the album where you are, hopefully there are many, but one that really stands out where like it's whether it was something you had to really work to overcome or whether it was something that just really fell into place and it was very serendipitous.
Sure.
And wow, I never would have expected that to add that or would have thought to add that, but I'm so happy that we did and that I'm so proud of this moment in the song.
Yeah. I feel like when I listen through it, like I always listen all the way through when I hear it. Like, and I don't do it often, but every once in a while I'll just sit down and be like, what's it about again? But I feel like I feel like at the end when I get through Garden, I just love the way that song sounds like a lot, especially alongside all the other ones. Cause it's a little more chill, but it's like still like got a lot going on. And then just like kind of it just well, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. It just like wraps up the album, you know, and it's over and it's like, damn, like that was crazy. Like I made that whole thing. I don't know. It's just wild to listen to it and think back at all about having done it. And I think one of the biggest like moments of pride was just like when I got the masters back and like when I had the art done and just being like, wow, like this process is completed. Like I was in charge, like it got done. That's really cool. It was very empowering to just like
walk in, like
have it all
cash
come
your
together.
own check and be like, wow,
yep.
Whoa, this equals money. Like,
Yeah,
not to make everything about money. It's not about. This is not
it's a good analogy.
Shameless, unless it is your shameless capitalism.
Yeah, I'm gonna make
album.
millions of dollars off of this record.
That's what it's like. Whenever like you do a favor for something, like, I'll pay you in stock in my music. Where when I inevitably am a billionaire and am touring with every superstar, it's like then I'll pay you back for the house show we played together in 2022.
LMAO. Yeah,
you get $1 million in Kate stock.
Absolutely, starting now.
Yeah.
But what was the question again?
You kind of touched on it, but just a moment you were especially proud of in the album that stood out, whether it was something you were responsible for or something that one of your collaborators brought to the table, but kind of sticking more within like the world of the album. Yeah. Like listening back.
I don't know. Chalk is a big one for me just because it's like very different and like it's so, I don't know, it just like hits really hard. And I feel like everyone on that song too, like did like the perfect thing and like, it just works so well. I feel like that's one where you can really hear like all of the elements really coming together. And also it's something that I haven't really done something like that before, so it's like cool to hear it work out and be cool.
I had a note for that. It was like a live staple because it's finally knowing what like the name of a song is after having seen it played a bunch. Like the guitar solo, the kind of like anger, like the little bit more fiery emotions versus like, not to dismiss the intensity of the others, but it's like a different presentation of that intensity
for sure. Cool.
And like some like the timing stuff. Was that when you are composing, how maybe this is getting a little too into the weeds, but like how conscious are you of like even just like the time signature or how you want to change that regardless? So like I'm sure that plays in like the song structure as well, like verse, chorus, post chorus, and so on.
I feel like a lot of songs, like I'm not super conscious of it when I'm doing it. And like most of my songs are pretty straightforward in terms of like time signature. Like most of them on the album are just 4/4. There's a couple with like extra measures and stuff like that in chord progressions. Like, yeah, and I like to like have those moments of pause, you know, rather than like move on to right on to the next section. A lot of the time I like to just add in like a little more space or something like that. But with Chalk, it's actually kind of a funny story because I was like working on that song. I had the chords. I loved the chords. I didn't know what else to do with it. And then I took mushrooms one day and I just like made that demo in my basement. And like, I don't even know how I like found that groove out or like, I don't think I was thinking about it at all. And it just kind of like fell into that timing. And I was like, okay, cool. Like this is what we're going to do. Actually, it might have been something like I was like kind of looping the piano and like cutting it at different parts. Yeah. Now that I think about it more, I think that's what I was doing. It was kind of like using different lengths of a loop that I had for different sections. And then, I don't know.
Yeah, because I think with both Chalk and Tomorrow, maybe they both kind of stand out with the introduction, whether it's like the kind of like the pickup. Because on Tomorrow, it's like the da 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 da. It's like is that starting on the downbeat? Is that like a and it kind of catches your ear rhythmically as well as musically, which I think is something that at least I never think of when I'm trying to work on music. And like it's easy to let that kind of pass by the wayside, and then suddenly you notice like, oh, that is kind of interesting or like different than I maybe would have approached it.
No, yeah, for sure. I feel like, much of the time I'm not really thinking about it too much. I'm just kind of like, what sounds cool?
Yeah, what sounds cool? Yeah. Which I think is
that's the way to go,
the best guiding principles. Like, does this sound? Does it slap? Yeah. Does it bang in the car?
Yep. There you go.
Obviously, the things I think when listening to your music. Another part that I just really excited me that I wanted to ask about was towards the end of Keep It Down. It has like the string leads really coming. Like there's a lot of cello on the album, which is super cool. But I don't really know. It felt like almost like a dance song at the end.
Yeah, we were definitely going. Yeah, we had the side chain going on.
Like, is this like your techno song or like it's like cello techno? Like what's going on? Like,
sick.
How did that just magnify in on that part of that song? Just
for sure. So like
anything that stands out.
I feel like that groove kind of originated when Alex started playing on that song. Like that song when I played it solo, it was kind of just like this free flowing like just a little bit like more, just loosey goosey. But then Alex comes in with this fucking like disco beat, and I'm like, okay, it's a whole new song now. Yeah, so that was super cool when that started. And then like when we brought it to Henry for some production, I believe maybe Abe had done a little bit of like a sidechain thing too, and then Henry like really dove in on that. Was like, I want this to be like the vibe, and I was like, hell yeah, let's go. So yeah, that's kind of how that one came together, and I love it. Yeah, it's so much fun. Yeah.
Well, that one that's a single as well. Like there are I think all like half the album is is out. Was that something you were thinking of? Because like I know like Tomorrow came out what feels like many moons ago, which I can't imagine. And wasn't really tied into the album. It wasn't until the second single, until I'll Never, when you're like, hey, this album's coming out. This is part of something. Well, Tomorrow's still a very key part of it. Was that something you were conscious of? Like that's a different kind of granular where it's like, how do you game the streams?
I don't know. Like, and the thing is that I do not know how to do that. So I was just like, initially I was going to like just put out 3 singles, and then people were like, you should do more. But I had already like planned the album release date. So I'm kind of like cramming them in, but it's still fun to just like be like, here's a song, sneak peek. Yeah. Like give a little bit away, Steven in the like mouse. Close enough to the date where it's not like, super detached, but it's also like, I don't know. I don't really know the best way to release things.
I don't think there's a best or better or worse way.
I have no idea what I'm doing.
This is the way that you did do it. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely wanted to like get a good number of songs out there. Initially, I wasn't planning on doing 5, but I think it was fun to do that, and it helps me see like those songs like more in their own light too, rather than just part of the album. Because like Keep It Down and Steven, like I didn't initially intend on releasing those ones as singles. Back to You and I'll Never and Tomorrow to me were always kind of like the singles, so I kind of viewed them that way. But like Keep It Down and Steven, like it's just been fun to listen to them like in like standalone and like I don't know, it's cool.
I think with those two especially, they are giving a little bit of a hint at the different musical directions.
For sure.
Well, all of them are, but I think even more so, whether it's like Steven starts out just like with like the guitar and just goes in that you sound like a story song kind of direction, which is always fun to see. Outside of the album, outside of recording, just at any point in your musical career, is there a moment that comes to mind where you really felt like your music was accomplishing or fulfilling what you wanted? Whether it was, a lot of people talk like tended to keep on having it release shows where it's like the album's out, this music is out, and the connection that happens live, or whether it was like you talked about hearing the masters for the first time and feeling that sense of fulfillment, like, yes, this is doing what I wanted it to do as a piece of art, as an extension of myself.
I would say like, when I heard the masters, when I've like throughout the recording process, like hearing the bounces come back, it's been like, like this is what I wanted this to sound like. And like, it feels like something new to me, and that's really cool. Like I'm very excited about the way that it turned out and like exploring this sound more in the future. I feel like it's kind of been a continuous thing where it's like, yes, this is what I wanted it to be, which is very cool feeling. And then like, and that's just in terms of like the aesthetics, reproduction and stuff like that. And there are times like live when I perform, like I feel like my songs where it's more just about like my feelings, like, you know, I get more out of that, and I feel like the audience will at some points. But I also, I don't know, there's something to be said for just like setting the example of like processing your feelings like that, and like being honest
it's a very
about that
cathartic
stuff.
album.
Yeah, exactly.
I can
Yeah.
imagine.
And so I can hope that it's like, it's hard to know for sure, like if it has this effect on people. I don't talk to everyone at the shows and stuff, you know, but it's like,
how did this song make you feel? How does this song make you feel?
Do it next time.
Yeah.
But but it's, I just can hope that people are like, you know, feeling something, you know, and hopefully connected to themselves a little bit more too. And then you have like the song like Chalk, where it's like, this is a collective outrage kind of, and it's like, are we in it together? And I just hope that like people can feel that too. I don't know, man. Yeah. It's crazy to think about like that kind of aspect of it, like how people are affected emotionally. And I think that it's doing something like I want it to. I can only hope that, from what I've seen
individuality
so far.
and that transience are very important.
Yeah.
And at least just from having interviewed so many musicians, like it seems like that isn't the first thing that comes to your mind when you're thinking like, oh, how are other people going to reply to this and respond to this? And are they going to resonate with these emotions that up until this song was released or until I played it live, like was just inside?
Yeah.
This is also kind of looking beyond just the context of rock, though I'm sure there is a lot to go into there. What is something that you really love or appreciate about your art or your creative process? Whether that's something that, again, in the context of rock, or that's been a through line through
for sure
your entire time making music, regardless of the band or context.
There's a lot that I love. I feel like
that's the best answer. That's what we want.
There's so much. I feel like one thing is like just the being able to just like express myself, because I feel like I am someone who struggles to do that with just like talking about things and like the normal ways that people should do that. So like it's really cool to like, it's really cool to be able to just like sit down and like have an outlet for that and feel like it's going to be received like, well, like that's really, really, really cool. I don't know. I feel honored every day to like be able to do it in that way. And it's also just something that like teaches me a lot about myself when I'm able to do it. So that's really cool.
It's very, very humbling on many levels.
Yeah, it's crazy to just think about all of it. But also just like, I don't know, I just like fucking around. Like I just really love to like make stuff and like try stuff out. And like this album was a huge process in doing that. Like just trying stuff, seeing what I like.
Seeing where it
like,
takes you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And even just like with, you know, when I paint and stuff, like I don't usually have an idea beforehand. Like I'll just see what happens. Like that's one of my favorite things about art, is because like it you're doing it, but it's also like guiding you at the same time and like teaching you at the same time as you are creating it. So it's very cool. I don't know.
Yeah, that especially with visual art, that kind of you may have like a feeling or a vague idea when you're starting out, but you don't really know what it's going to look like. That at least with me, that resonates more with me visually, whereas like maybe it's just with music, I just think of like so many like it has all the grids and it's like all the different tracks, and it's like maybe that's just like the radio brain in me where it's like it has to be multi-tracked, and the serendipity of creation is not negated by the fact that there are a bunch of rows of audio.
No way. That's cool. That's cool.
We're talking before the album is out. It'll be out May 4th. So by the time you're hearing this,
oh my god, it's the Star Wars Day. I didn't even do that on purpose. I didn't even do that. I just realized
it's a concept album about The Last Jedi.
As it turns out,
for all the fans.
Good
out
luck,
there.
like figuring out.
Yeah, it's really, really oblique. So the album will be out by the time you're hearing this. Be available everywhere. Are there any plans for more direct ways for people to check it out, like tapes or CDs, or just sticking with digital at start? That's always an investment. It's a process.
Yeah, it is. I did. I'm making CDs right now. I had some like sleeves made up, and then my friend's gonna burn them for me. So that's gonna be cool. So I will have CDs. I probably will have those like not online, but available at the album release show. And then like if they don't if they don't go away from me at that point in time, if there's still some left, then I will probably try to sell them online. Yeah. If not, just like post them on Instagram, be like, if you want one, DM me like
for CD.
Yeah.
So bring back bartering.
Yep,
we love it.
Exactly. What can you offer me in return? But no,
I could be paid in food, or cash.
Exactly.
When is the release show? Because I'm hopefully, if you're hearing this, it hasn't happened yet. You should go. But if it has already happened, you're hopefully just there.
Yeah.
But
it is May 26th. It's a Friday.
Okay. Yeah. This will
7th Street entry.
So help me God, this will be out before then. So get to the gig. May 26th. Beyond that, beyond like the immediate future of kind of casting your mind in advance of the release show of the actual album coming out, because at the time of recording that hasn't happened yet. Beyond that, what does the future hold for you? What are you kind of eyeing for the next era of your solo project? Just in the most in the broadest possible strokes.
I got to write more songs. I got to do that soon. Started to like write again recently. It's been a while, so that's exciting. I don't know. I'm hoping to like do some more collaborative stuff, kind of like in between this record and like my next like solo record. Like I'd love to do some songs with other bands. Like I don't know if I'm allowed. You might have to cut this out. I'm gonna text Josie, but I recorded a song like with Early Eyes, and I helped write that one. So that was really cool. I want to do more stuff like that. With other local musicians and stuff. I feel like coffee's
already the hotspot for like leaking Early Eyes.
Okay, good deal.
Stuff,
good deal. Right on. Glad to know I did not betray anyone there. But so that's
if any of y'all
really
are listening
exciting.
and have a problem, DM us. We will not change it.
But yeah, I don't know. Just I want to like, work with more people and just continue to write stuff. I feel like for this next album, I want to be a little more meticulous about it. In terms of like the arrangements and stuff on there. And like,
Are you feeling like you're going to be continuing that similarly maximalist and very, very, very full sounded, or like,
I would love
not trying to pigeonhole an album before it's even being conceptualized.
No, I pigeonhole myself all the time. But, but I think I do want to continue with that, at least like going into it, and then maybe do a little more this time of like the cutting away, or like really honing in on a certain part and like practicing the hell out of it, like getting it super down. I feel like for this last record, like I wasn't super diligent or like disciplined about the stuff I was recording, but everything sounds totally fine. The performances are not bad, but like I just, I think this next time I will probably put a little more time into it beforehand, especially now that I'm like out of school and stuff. And
that's huge for time.
But I feel like it's gonna be kind of the same, but a little more like, tightened up.
We'll
I'm saying?
We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
We will all have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Cool. So you are familiar with this part, but always love to end interviews on the same note. What are some local bands, artists, or just underappreciated bands that maybe you've played with on tour with Keep for Cheap, or just have seen out in the world? Who do we want to shout out? Who is going to, beyond everybody, that it's impossible to list, because
for sure
we'll be here all day.
The first one I want to say is Little Famine Carpet. I don't know if you've heard of Little Famine Carpet, but it's Luke Roberts used to perform under Q Pup. I don't know if you remember Q Cup, Q Pup, but very good music. Like some of the stuff that really inspired me when I was like first starting to play in the local scene with my ska band. We like played a show with him at the garage, and I was like, this is crazy.
Gotta bring up Diffuser. Let's go.
But no, for real though, like he was playing, and I was just like, I didn't know you could write music like this. Like it was so emotional and raw, and I was like, hell yeah, let's go. That was very inspiring. Another group Keep for Cheap played with on tour called Lou Lagoon. They're really good.
I think they just put something out.
Yeah, they just put a record out, so check that out. They're awesome. Let me think a little bit more here. I feel like a lot of the artists around the cities, like people are aware, people are generally very aware of a lot of the people that I am aware of as well. I just found this artist called Rosie online. I haven't met her in real life. I haven't met them in real life yet, but very good. Just Rosie.
IE or Y?
IE. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to think
there's
of.
a lot out there.
Yeah. Those are a few, though. Those are a few.
I mean, at the very least, there's also just Fen and Keep for Cheap, though.
Yeah.
I'll be the one to mention those
My
so you
other
don't feel
projects,
too like,
Thanks.
well, more about me.
Yep.
Cool. Fantastic. Yeah, like we said before, Rock is out now. Find it wherever you find music, whether that's in a hole in your backyard or on the desecrated corpse of the streaming services. Fortunately, that does not negate the beauty of the album, so definitely check it out and get to the release show. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk about it and setting a new record for...
Yeah.
It's literally just like you, Abe, and Anita in like a race to like see who can just like take over as host of the podcast
Oh
one
my God.
day.
I'm going to begin this beef now.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
No beef. No, we do not want beef in general,
It's a
but
fun
especially
beef.
between you
It's
three.
a fun beef.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on Ear Coffee.
Ear Coffee Podcast is a companion to the blog of the same name. If you like this episode, please leave us a rate and review so we can stand out among the other music podcasts. You can follow us at Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram @Ear Coffee. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.